Monday night. Time to go live. Gonna wait for you guys to check in and say hello. Anybody out there in Instagram land tonight? I'm just gonna sit here and stare at the phone. Here, do this. Get that light just a little bit. There we go. Less light. Anybody joining me tonight? Am I all by myself? There's Claw. Hey, Claw. Right now it's just you and me. We'll see if anybody else pops in here in a minute. So, how was riding this weekend? Where'd you end up going? Hey, what's up, Fitbit? Good to see you. Don't you guys have a riding event this weekend? Somewhere? South? Because I saw something about it on your story. So what's going on? River Valley. How was River Valley, Claw? How was the bike running? How's the suspension? Great track. How about the bike? How about the rider? How'd all that go? It's a little quiet to start tonight. Don't know why, but it is. Excellent. Good. Glad your bike's running well. The rider sucked. No, the rider is just out of practice. We never suck. We're out of practice. Or out of sync. I always say I'm just not at one with my dirt bike. That covers it. That explains everything without having to say anything. Especially if you were doing a lot of operator failure, dumb things like I like to do. Yeah, just walking, you know? Taking a walk every night. That'd be good for you. Wow, just two of us tonight? Where is everybody? Normally we got people popping in more than this. I wonder if people are tired of my lives. Maybe I should go down to just one a month. Then y'all will miss me. What do you think? All right, hang on a second. I gotta go check on something. All right, sorry guys, I'm back. Anybody else join in with us? It's Rebecca. Yeah, Rebecca, I remember. We met at Sandwinder, and how did you do at Sandwinder anyway? I finished. I did all 6 tests, and I was exhausted, but it was a good exhausted. I'm glad I went, and I want to do some more. Yes, Claw, we got Joe into the world of Instagram. That's the only social media he does. But he's watching live, so you can tell Joe how well your bike rode this last weekend. I guess it was yesterday at River Valley. But anyway, hang on one more second. Okay, you gotta go into the bedroom because I can hear it. Okay, I don't normally disappear like that, but so I did Open C for the first time. Finished 25th out of 4. That's awesome. That's fantastic, Rebecca. I finished 2nd out of 2, but I finished. So, you know, The first stage was the only stage that I came in on time and left for the second test with my row. After that, I was like 10, 15 minutes behind and then further and further. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. The format was cool. I definitely want to ride some more enduros. It's a definite mindset, especially if you don't come in on time to be able to catch a break. So other than taking a quick potty break before test 3 and 4, yeah, I rode my bike consistently for several hours, then went back and gassed up and got back on the bike and rode some more. So yeah, had never done that. So it was pretty cool. Really enjoyed it. The Wildcat Enduro at Hidden Falls. When is that? Let me write that down. Were there any? No, Claw. We did not do any man-made obstacles at all. This is strictly enduro. It wasn't extreme enduro. It was all natural terrain. We were down in Smithville, which is east of Austin. Anyway. Well, you know, guys, I advertised, I posted announcements. I guess this is all we're getting for tonight. So I'm just going to go ahead and start because it's already 7:37. Claw, you asked if I had any role models that I looked up to while I was starting my racing career, and did I ever get to meet any of them? One of those was Malcolm Smith. Yeah, Rebecca, the logs either got removed or they got broken down from everybody going over them, or you could go around them. Malcolm Smith was definitely an idol of mine. You know, back then in the early 80s, Supercross didn't exist yet. And we were starting to have a type of, Supercross came around, I guess, in the mid to late 80s. I do remember leaving a cross-country race on a Saturday to go watch Supercross. And for a while, it was at Fort Worth Convention Center. Will Rogers, I believe. And then it moved to Texas Stadium. And we always got the treadhead seats, $10. That was nice. You don't get treadhead seats anymore. So anyway, and Dirt Rider and Dirt Rider magazine. There was another one, a couple other magazines that were out at the time, and Malcolm Smith did a regular feature because the magazines were once a month, so he did a regular feature in them, and it was about how to address and get through trail obstacles. One of my all-time favorites was when Dirt Bike. Yes, it was Dirt Rider and Dirt Bike magazine. You are correct. But one of my all-time tips and hints from him was when you have a set of trees that are staggered off like this, and you have to go through them, or you have to make a turn around them. He said, well, just plant your right foot, pick the front end up, turn the bike, put it down, and go. And I was like, well, that's all good and well, Malcolm, if you're 6 foot tall. But some of us who aren't, my foot would still be dangling, and I'd be like, putting my foot down. Yeah. So anyway, that was my favorite tip that he ever shared. I thought it was freaking awesome. I actually rode with Malcolm. I've met him a couple of times. He was here in Texas. Oh, gosh, I don't even remember when. I was riding out of Cycletown South, KTM dealership over south of Dallas. And he was in town doing promo or something for the Malcolm Smith gear line that he had. And anyway, we got to take pictures with Malcolm. So I met him there, have a picture with him. Also, he came into town for cross country a couple of times. And my dad's favorite memory of Malcolm was he came to ride a TCCRA race, and he came on a street legal bike, blinkers, horn, probably street legal tires, not slicks, but street legal. And He rode the race, and every time he came through checkpoint, something else was dangling off the bike. And as he would pull into checkpoint, he was hitting the horn, but the blinkers were all hanging off or gone and whatnot. And yeah, Malcolm rode onto the property on that bike and raced the bike as is. That's Malcolm. Another time he was in Texas, he was promoting land, property to be used for off-road riding. And it was practice on Saturday, and I've heard a bike coming up behind me, so of course I moved over. This time he was not on a street legal bike. He did not have a little horn or anything like that, but I heard him come up behind me. I recognized who it was very quickly. I was like, oh, I'm gonna ride with Malcolm Smith. He was gone. Yeah, I rode with Malcolm's dust. Did not ride with Malcolm at all. He was a zig, a zag, and he was out of there. So, and he was, gosh, he had to have been 50 at the time, 50 or 60 at the time. Anyway, loved his gear, especially because the KTM riders, a lot of us wore the Malcolm Smith gear. We liked it. You know, Malcolm was a huge proponent of KTM and everything like that. So it was really cool to meet him and actually say I rode with his dust. But definitely a huge supporter of, hey, Speed for Fun, what is up? It's you know, he's a huge proponent of off-road use for land. Andrew Short, yeah, I'm sure Andrew passed me and I have no idea it was him. But anyway, so my other idols, another one would be Dee Wood. She started off in cross country and then went to motocross. And hey, Jaylee, what's up? And Dee is 4 years younger than I am. But she started riding when she was like 3 or 4. And she and her brother both were very young. Anyway, so Dee would take me on a practice lap, and it was totally her play speed, completely. But the amazing thing was just riding behind her. She'd be on her 125. I learned a lot about body position and using your body for getting through stuff as opposed to turning all the time. You know, it was little dips and leans and a flick of your hip or something like that. And we became very good friends. And so rode with her a lot. And definitely one of my idols. One of the most quiet and unassuming fast chicks I've ever met. So she still rides really, really well. But that was my other idol. Then I'd have to say my dad. My dad was an idol because he was an enduro rider. We lived up in Wisconsin, and he got into enduros up there. And my dad was never fast. He was all about technical. And I was lucky because I learned technical first and added speed later. And the thing about that is I think that kept me from having a lot of really bad, gnarly crashes because I had my technical down. Yeah, Joe, I know. Dee could whip your butt with one arm tied behind her back. Yeah, Rebecca, I like the techie as well. But anyway, so I remembered, man, we dry creek beds and rocks and roots and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then we moved down here to Texas and we discovered TCCRA. Dad rode one, got finished with it. He's like, Laura, because back then I went by Laura still. Now I'm LJ. But you've got to try this. So I rode my first 2 cross-country races on my mom's little DR100. Ripped the headlight off of it both times. Got done with the second race. The first one was at Oak Hill. Second one was at Rocky Ridge. And I told Dad, I said, look, if I'm going to keep doing this, I need a real dirt bike. And the next week he came home with a brand new XR200 and a CR80. And I'm pretty sure he didn't pay more than $3,000 for both bikes combined. But, so I learned my technical first from my dad, and it has served me well. Like I said, I really believe that it prevented me from having nasty, gnarly wrecks. Because, we all have the conversations about young riders who have gotten so fast so quickly. And we'll talk about, man, they're fast. And then somebody in the group then says, yeah, they haven't had their first bad crash yet. And yeah, that's the scary thing about not having your technical. I think it's easier to learn technical first and add your speed, as opposed to being fast first and then having to go back and add your speed. Add your technical. It's not easy. Yeah, there you go. Trials bike, Rebecca. Trials bike, yes. You learn so much on a trials bike. And if you look now at all the extreme enduro stuff, Graham Jarvis and, I can't remember the other kid, Billy Bolt and those guys, they're doing trials riding skills on full-blown dirt bikes. I think that's amazing what they can do now. So, yeah, I think that's really cool. Your kid's going to be an awesome rider by the time they're, 10? Quinn, very cool. Oh, Quinn Wenzel, yes. Anyway, so my dad, I definitely looked up to him, and we had a standing joke. Dad would always talk about when we'd go riding together, and he'd say, I used to have to pull over and stop for her. And this was when I was 17 or 18. And he said, and then we went riding one time, and I kept looking over my shoulder, and that little shit was still right there behind me. And he said that with, love and affection. But, I was keeping up with him because I had also started riding with D, and I started riding with the other guys out of the KTM shop. So we were riding one Easter Sunday. Nobody else was at the property. We were at Flying P in Weatherford, and I passed Dad. Hey, Noah. For the first time ever, I pulled a pass on my father. And then my father promptly crashed and shattered his collarbone. And so our joke was that he had gone into a poof berm, and it gave way, on the front end, slid out from under him. He landed like square, hit his collarbone and stuff. But when we said the poof berm was in heat, and it took Dad out. And I said Dad crashed because he was in total shock that I had actually passed him. So, obviously my mom was one of my greatest heroes. Nobody else could go that slow and stay up on two wheels. I've told the stories and whatnot. I just loved that she rode for her own reasons, for her own enjoyment, and for her own expectations and goals. And I loved that. So many people go, Susie, you can go faster if, and she's like, oh, I don't want to. She didn't. She just wanted to ride. My other idol is Burt Reynolds. He works with Todd Tarver at SLM KTM of North Texas. Burt and I have known each other since the 80s, I think. And one of the things I always loved about Burt and the way he rode, he has multiple cross-country championships. Very few of them did he win every single race of the season. He was always consistent. And he was smart, but he was fast. And he won his championships by finishing every race, riding smart, but he was very good technically. And I learned things from riding with him as well. And I've enjoyed him. I am proud to be able to call him one of my brothers. But riding with Burt was always something good. I always learned something from him. So I also kind of look up to him as a rider because, it's one thing to be able to dominate the whole season. Hey, Steph, and win every single race. There's always those people. It's the other people that manage to win year in, year out. Not because they're the flashiest, but because they are consistent and they are such good riders. And that was Burt. That is Burt. He's still racing today. So those are my role models, I guess you could say. Steph, real quick, how you feeling today? Steph had another surgery on her wrist on Friday, y'all. So she is out for the year as far as we know right now. And anyway, she's had a tough tough several weeks. So if you could, lift her up in your prayers, your good vibes and thoughts and all that. Complete healing. So anyway, so from there, yeah, I bet you are sore. Yeah. Holler at me, okay? The other thing I want to talk about tonight, this comes from Brian Enciso, and he works up at Denton Cycle Center of Denton and whatnot. And he's a motocrosser. He and his brother were doing the last year on Instagram, their quest to ride, I think it was Mammoth. But he actually asked me if he's going to switch over from motocross to cross country. How does he prepare for that? What does he need to do? And what are some things, some tips, tricks, whatever. So I thought this would be a good time, since everybody's seasons are starting to get going and ramping up. Prepping for cross country or single track off-road racing. Well, if you're switching over from motocross to cross country, first thing I'm going to say is, what tires are you running? If you're running soft terrain tires, you need to switch to intermediate terrain, because the soft terrain won't last very long. As we all know, cross country tracks are not groomed. And so, rocks, roots, hard pack, black dirt that turns to blue groove, all of that, it will chew soft tires up in a heartbeat. So I suggest intermediate terrain tires. There are lots of brands to choose from and lots of knobby patterns and styles to choose from within a brand. I'm running Pirelli M Extras right now. I tend to like Pirellis and Michelins. I do not like Dunlops, and it's simply because I had a bad experience with a Dunlop as a front tire years ago. And once something bad like that happens and it scares me and hurts me, I will never use that product again. Yes, I'm probably superstitious, but I will not run Dunlops. No, I don't know if Brian is thinking about that or not. I thought it was a good question when he asked. I think he's just looking to ride more. Also, tire pressure. You don't want to run 10 pounds of air because we're running over stuff that's going to puncture your tire. Terrain varies so much within any off-road course. So 12 to 13 pounds in each tire. If I'm at a predominantly sandy track, like say Bonita, I'll probably drop down to 11 pounds, but I don't like to go much lower than that unless it's mud and the whole track is mud, really bad. Then I'll drop down to 10 pounds. All right, the other thing, whether you've been racing motocross or cross country or just trail riding all of last year, 2019, service your suspension components. Get the fork oil changed, get the shock oil changed. Also, get bibs, and don't worry about, you're right, we're talking about bibs and a couple of other things, Rebecca. Meg's Brap also suggests something like a bib as well. We're talking about it, and just haven't got there yet. So let's see. Suspension components, definitely. Have the oil changed, and then also in your shock, the reason why you want to get the oil changed, get it serviced, you can check the bladder for any pinholes that will cause a problem with the way the bike handles and, the shock reacts and everything like that. Also, you need to check and make sure the bushings in your forks aren't worn out, because that'll make your seals blow that much faster, etc. From there, you definitely need to bleed and replace your brake fluid, especially if you rode a lot the previous year, or if like your front brake pulls in, it's kind of soft and you pump it up and then it gets stiff. The fluid is worn. It's probably black and it needs to be bled out and replaced. So front and rear brake fluid, definitely change it out, bleed it and change it out. Check the wear on your brake pads. People tend to forget about that, and the only time they see it is if they took a tire off, and have to put it back on, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, look, my brakes are worn. Check your brake pads. I personally am loving the Brembos on my Sherco. Of course, Brembo's top of the line. It's worth every penny. Those suckers stop on a dime. My next question is, how old is your bike? When was the last time you greased the steering stem? How long have you been riding your bike and you haven't pulled the steering column apart and grease those bearings up in the steering stem. You'll know if you need to really, really badly if it turns poorly, makes some really strange creaking, squeaking noises. But once a year, it doesn't hurt. The more you ride your bike, definitely. Grease your steering stem bearings. Also, while you have your bike up on a stand, both tires off the ground, grab the front tire, shake it side to side. If it's tight, you're good. Your front wheel bearings are good. Do the same thing with the rear tire. If it moves a little, your bearings are shot and need to be replaced quickly. So that's something to do. And if you do ride a lot, especially the older your bike gets, the more seasons it gets on it, check that, every couple of months. If you're riding every weekend, definitely keep an eye on the wheel bearings. Say that 3 times as fast as you can. From there, how long has it been since you started your bike? Y'all, with today's gasoline and ethanol in it, if you're not running straight gas, the ethanol tends to make the gas break down and go bad within about 4 weeks. So if your bike has been sitting with gas in it that's 2, 3, 4 months old, I suggest you drain the gas, pull the carburetor, clean that carburetor out, because sitting for a month or longer, it gets like a little gel, kind of goo gel. I call it mung junk that, it gunks up your carburetor and will make it hard to start and hard to run. And the gas will be crappy, so it won't run very well anyway. So definitely, how long has your bike been sitting with that gas in it? Because it's probably not going to run well. Let's see. The next thing. People forget about this until they're on the bike, and then they're like, oh, geez, I need to replace my grips. Start of the season. If you ride several series, or if you ride an off-road season, which consists of 8, 10, 12, 14 races, you wear your grips pretty fast. I do. I run pretty thin grips. And I just noticed after loading my bike at Sandwinder, I need to replace my grips. So, and I usually go through at least a pair a year because I run soft grips, but my hands here are small. So if I have larger grips, it's causes cramping and pain here and serious arm pump. So I run very thin grips. That's me. Let's see. Check your goggles, y'all. The foam on the bottom and the top rips very easily. And you don't want to figure that out when you're in a dust race and all of a sudden you got a bunch of dust in your eyes because the foam is ripped. Check your goggles before your first season race. Check your helmet. This is really important. Y'all, Fly is now running this technology. I think Bell is running a similar technology, 6D, with the ODS omnidirectional suspension system, impact suspension system. I had my 6D for 4 years, and if you know me, you know I lawn dart frequently. Whatever it is, I managed to hit my head. Sent my 6D off about a month ago now, and was lucky enough for them to be able to replace that inner suspension system for me. The rest of the helmet the integrity is still intact, and that's probably going to cost me $250. Hadn't got the bill yet. But that is worth it to look into this kind of helmet technology and be able to run it 4 or 5 years and only have to pay a couple of $100 to replace the directional suspension system as opposed to $1,000 for a new helmet every year. For me, my talent is, if there's a way to hit my head, I'm gonna. I just do. It's what I do. The 60 is worth it. I do know that the Fly, now running a similar system, is lighter. And currently they say that is the helmet to buy right now. So, I went from the HJC carbon fiber. I loved my carbon fiber. Then I went to the Shoei, don't know how you say that. Great helmet. Great helmet. Went through 2 of them, I think. And then I had a season where all I did was land on my head. And we started checking out the 6D. And once 60 finally came out with all sizes, because when they first came out, it was just mediums and larges and maybe some extra larges, no smalls. And I have a small head, so I wouldn't buy the 60 then. Finally came out with the small, and I've been running the 60, like I said, for 4 years now. So before you start the season, because this is something we don't think about unless we've had a really gnarly, nasty mud race or something, and we pull the liner to wash it. With cross country, my liner gets washed every couple of races, especially once it gets hot, because otherwise that's just nasty up all inside there. So anyway, pull your liner, check the integrity of the shell in your helmet. You know the rule. If there are any little white spider lines, the integrity is no longer viable, and you need to get a new helmet immediately. So guys, do that. Check your helmet as soon as we get done, or tomorrow, whatever, but check the inside of your helmet, pull your liner, and inspect it carefully, clearly. Use a small flashlight if you need to. But I would highly urge you to do your research on the 6D, the Fly, and the Bell, and then try each one on and get one of these helmets. It's worth it. If you're going to spend top dollar on safety equipment, get that kind of helmet. Believe me, it's done its job, and y'all, I probably have had 10 concussions. I don't even know anymore. And for me to be able to lawn dart like I do and not have a concussion, helmet's doing its job. So definitely invest. Yeah, they're all very different head shapes. Yes, I can't wear the Bell, y'all. For whatever reason, the way the Bell sits, it sits right on top of my head, and it hurts. So I can't wear the Bell. I've tried on the Fly and the 60. Both of those fit me pretty well. So that's my advice there. Also, people kind of also forget about gloves until they get torn. Y'all, they're making gloves thinner and thinner now anyway. Buy a new pair of gloves every season. What is it, $30? And if you've got a discount at a shop, a little bit less, $40, whatever, buy some new gloves, okay? New grips, new gloves, definitely. The other things you need to check, next time you clean your air filter, hold it up to the light. Check all the seams, make sure that they aren't pulling apart and separating, which when they pull all the way apart will be kind of expensive when they suck all kinds of crap into your motor. So definitely inspect your air filter. We are now running 2 filters for each bike. That way, less wear and tear, but also easier cleaning. You've got a clean one to throw in, you clean the other and let it dry. It's ready to go for the next race, and it just rotates. Obviously, always change your tranny oil. Get a new spark plug. Put a new spark plug in there. It needs one. Go for it. The other thing that I was going to say, and it came... another piece of safety equipment, which I have not yet invested in, knee braces. Everybody's running them, and try knee braces on, y'all, because our legs are all different. I have short, squatty legs, and so something that size-wise, girth-wise will fit somebody else. Their legs are longer than mine, and the knee brace may be down to my ankle because my legs are so short. Check in the knee braces, guys. Definitely, those are worth a good investment as well. From there, let me see. They don't. I know, Claw. I know. That's one of the reasons why I'm not worrying about it right now. I'm running the Fox Titan knee pad or knee cup shin guard. It's not exactly a knee brace, but it's better than the cheap things. We are old. We are not that old. Shut up. But I hear you, Claw. I'm right with you on the whole fitting in the boots thing. I can't, let me see. I really can't think of anything else that really takes precedence. If you're still running the same tires from last season, it might be time to check to make sure that the knobs aren't ripping off on the sides, especially on the front tire. That would suck. Other than that, oh gosh, there was something else I was thinking I was gonna suggest, and now it went right on out the window, and I don't remember what it was I was gonna say. Oh, if you are riding off-road and the last time you wore your Camelback was 4 months ago, get it out and clean it out. You might want to run some hot soapy dishwater through it and clean that out a little bit. Might be a little mold and mildew and crap like that. Yeah, that would be yucky. Especially to take a big old swig of water. Yeah, we won't even go there. Other than that, I can't really think of much else. Check the tubes on your carburetor, especially if your bike is several years old. Make sure that those tubes are hoses rather are not brittle. No, I haven't seen that. I'll have to ask him about it, Claw. So, and if it requires extra effort, I'd rather just buy a new tire. Rather than put a new tire on. But anyway, that's about all I can think of. Also, if you are switching over from motocross to cross country, there is a different mindset. That is something I do want to touch on right quick. And that, motos are, gosh, they're what, 20 minutes maybe? Four laps, depending on, Rob, yeah, chain and sprockets, you're right. Yeah, that's an automatic. Check your chain and sprockets. How do you check to see? Well, you first look at your sprockets and look at the teeth of the sprocket. If the U is pushed out and it's more like this, you need new sprockets. Also, on your chain, before you even take it off your bike, just grab it and move it from side to side. If it moves way far, it's too much slack, it's loose. My favorite chain test is just put it on the floor, roll her down, and then put it in a straight line, and then grab the ends, and start pulling. The more of a U it makes, the more worn out that it is. A brand new chain will not bend very much in a straight line. That's something I like to do. Chain and sprockets, yeah. Also, at least once a year, check your spokes. And when you tighten your spokes, do not tighten each spoke in a row. You alternate. Tighten a spoke, count 2. Tighten the next spoke, count 2. And make sure you remember where you start so you can get all your spokes checked. Definitely check your spokes. If you have a brand new bike, check your spokes, because as we all know, stuff straight from the factory coming out of the crate may not always be as tight as it should be. So if you've got a fairly new bike and you haven't checked all the nuts and bolts that could rattle out, I just lost one of the steering stopper bolts on my Sherco, and we just noticed it before we went to Sandwinder. So how is that important? Well, the steering stopper obviously keeps you from hitting your radiator guards and some other things. So that bolt had rattled out. Check your bolts, make sure they're all tight, etc. From there, mentality, frame of mind. If you're switching from motocross to cross country, you got to realize most cross country races, even for the amateur program, is about an hour long, if not an hour and 15, give or take. So you have to change your mindset. You can't try to win it all in the first turn. The whole shot is important in cross country when it's really dusty. Otherwise, you don't always have to whole shot. The other thing is, you don't have to shred every single berm, especially in the woods. All you're doing is wasting time and energy by shredding every single berm. Ride the track. This ain't motocross, okay? And pace yourself. Realize that you still have to have as much energy at the end of the race as you did at the beginning. It's not all one in the first turn. It's also not all one in the first lap. So you've got to put together a whole hour of riding. How can you prepare for that? Go out and run loops. There are several properties in North Texas that you can go ride. And make yourself ride for an hour straight. Not necessarily race speed, but just riding for an hour straight. Get your butt used to having to be on the bike that long. Because let me tell you what, we were on our bikes from the Sandwinder Enduro for 4 hours, basically. My butt was sore. Oh, my butt was sore on Monday. Yes, it was sore. And it wasn't monkey butt. It was just sore from sitting and being on the bike. And by the way, and I want to bring this up, Rebecca and some other of the enduro riders, I noticed, yeah, you stand up more. I agree. I always stand up. But especially for test 1, I found I had to sit a whole lot more. Test 1 and test 3, I sat a lot because I couldn't get comfortable standing up with how tight it was. And I think that's just going to come from me riding more enduros and that tight of stuff. Because let's face it, enduro's a little bit more technical, which I like, over torn. But anyway, and then my muscles were also, leg muscles, my hamstrings were sore. But so just get used to riding for an hour. You got to get used to that. And you're building muscle memory. You're building, what else would you call it? But you're getting your body used to being on the bike that long and realizing that the amount of energy you would expend in a 20-minute moto, now you have to spread out over an hour-long race. So that's part of it right there. Just getting used to the amount of seat time, and it's a change in mentality. Because in motocross, your start is vital. Stamina, endurance, yes. And also, every mistake on a motocross track is devastating. 2 seconds is a lifetime in cross country, but in motocross, it's the difference between first and fifth in a 2-second mistake. So yeah, mentality is the big thing to change there. And we've seen a lot of top pro motocrossers come out to cross country because there was a huge pro purse being offered for that particular race. And those pro motocrossers that come out the woodwork because it's $1,000 pro purse, or even more, whatever. And man, first lap, they just be tearing everybody up, flying. They have a big lead, and we're all laughing. We're like, this guy's going to pooter. Watch, he's going to peter out here pretty quick. Second lap comes by, flying, just hauling, just ripping and shredding. Third lap, all of a sudden, that guy doesn't have a lead anymore. Fourth lap, he's dropped to third. Fifth lap, now he's dropped to whatever, because there's a big difference in the mentality between a motocross race and a cross-country race. So I think that's about all I got for right now. Next week, I'm going to have Dirt-tastic on. It's Dirt, D-I-R-T .ASTIC. I've followed Dirt-tastic on both my personal Instagram and Jackalope Instagram. They are a group that they have certified coaches that are in various parts of the United States, and they are working with women to ride. Anyway, I'm going to have a representative from Dirt-tastic on next week to talk about everything that they do and where their rides are and just everything in general. I think it's a really cool concept. I actually met her at Make Up to Mud last summer. I'm not sure if she's the founder, and y'all, I can't remember her name right now. Otherwise, I would tell you her name. But anyway, so that's going to be next week's interview. And I'm trying to figure out people from the motorcycle world that I can bring on to interview and for y'all, instead of me just talking every time. Because sometimes my race recaps, it's about 5 minutes, and I'm like, yeah, the rest was terrible. I don't want to talk about it. So if you've got ideas, y'all, remember, I'm open to ideas. Send me things that pop up in your head. How do you deal with it? Can be enduro related. It can be cross country related, motorcycle related. It can be female related as well. Whatever. How do you deal with such and such? It can be height related. LJ, you're so stinking short. How do you? Whatever. So anyway, that's all I've got for tonight. Hey, Nathan, you joined just as I'm about to drop off the face of the earth, brother. But just so everybody knows, the lives stay up and available for 24 hours. Then after that, I am able to download and post them to YouTube. And the link to my YouTube channel is in my bio. But definitely go check those out. I'll be getting the footage from Sandwinder put up this week. And yeah, that's about all I got. Our first torn race is the last weekend of this month. It's the leap year weekend. And any day we get to ride is a good day. So live to ride another day, y'all. Thanks for stopping in and hanging out with me tonight. And I will see you next week for sure. Bye, guys. And